Today on the CTV News at 5, she's been missing since June 11th.
It's not surprising that a lot of people showed up.
How friends and family are remembering a 23-year-old nursing student. And while some are calling for a senator battling dementia to resign,
we have to love her, we have to respect her.
A local MLA is calling for compassion.
CTV News with Darrell Romuld.
Good afternoon. Lethbridge Regional Police and Canadian Pacific Police have 23 new officers after a graduation ceremony this afternoon. One of the new constables comes from generations of public service, including Lethbridge's former police chief. Alicia Fieldberg reports.
With a hug from Dad, Chris Middleton Hope embraces the long arm of the law at his police graduation. His father, John Middleton Hope, Lethbridge's former police chief, presented the badge to his youngest son.
I'm grateful that he was here to help me through it, and I'm very excited. I can't wait to start work.
He's going to be an exceptional police officer. We're very proud of him.
Careers in criminal justice seem to run in the family. The entire Middleton Hope family, with the exception of one brother, is a serving or retired member of a police service. Chris's parents are both retired officers. His mom, Debbie, used to be an inspector in Calgary.
We're very proud of him, and he's just the best.
Chris's oldest brother, Michael, is now a sergeant in Calgary. His sister, Jody, works in Lethbridge Police's civilian unit. Chris comes from generations of public service. His grandfather was a highly decorated World War II veteran, and his great-grandfather served in the Boer War and First World War. Two of Chris's young nephews also want to be cops.
My dad has always been one out on the streets, and he would always come home and tell us his wacky police stories and what he ought to do. And I really thought that, you know, enforcing the law and being out there protecting everybody, it'd really be a good job to do.
Who knows what'll happen? Maybe we'll make history books with the 5 generations in policing.
Chris says policing appealed to him at a young age, and growing up surrounded by cops will help him as an officer.
I think I'll take a bit from everybody and try to make my own path. I'll take advantage of everybody's experience and use it to my best of my ability. Every day I get to come out and actually make some kind of difference in people's lives, whether it's big or little. I think every day I get the chance to do that, and I think there's no better job for it.
Alicia Fieldberg, CTV News, Lethbridge.
The constables are all graduates of the Lethbridge College Police Training Program. College officials say the government's decision to pull funding for its police training facility in Fort Macleod won't affect them a great deal.
Lethbridge College had been working with the Solicitor General's office in development of curriculum and whatnot with the centre in Fort Macleod. At this point, we will continue to work with the Solicitor General's office in the development and delivery of curriculum for the recruits through the Centre for Advancement in Community Justice.
The town of Fort Macleod is continuing to consider all of their legal options. A Lethbridge MLA says the community is losing one of its biggest advocates in Senator Joyce Fairbairn. Bridget Pasteur shared these photos with us at CTV today. The senator is taking an extended sick leave from the upper house after being diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia. She's been a federal Liberal senator since 1984 and until June sat on the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Forestry. Fairbairn has 2 years left on her current term before she's supposed to retire. Some are calling for Fairbairn to resign, but Pasteur says we need to show her some compassion.
We have to love her, we have to respect her, and she's one of 500,000 people in this country that suffer from Alzheimer's. And it's a different kind of, it's just a different kind of disease. It's very, very debilitating, but it's also very hard on families. So if she collects sick pay for a little while, you know what? I'm okay with that.
Pasteur says Fairbairn is at home receiving 24-hour care. She suspects the senator will submit her resignation shortly. And Steve Rothfels is in with our first look at weather. Steve, everyone wants to know what the long weekend has.
Well, hold on to your wheat kernels there, Darrell, because although the sunshine's going to continue all weekend, the wind is going to pick up tomorrow, gusting to, well, possibly 70, 80 kilometers per hour. Sun continues right through the long weekend, but it won't be as warm as today's high 20s. We'll have all the details coming up a little bit later in the show. Darrell?
Thank you, Steve. Hundreds from across North America gathered in Bow Island yesterday to remember a life cut short. Amy Lewis has not been seen since June the 11th. Now, more than 2 months later, family and friends are remembering her. We get more from Chat TV's Brianna Karsten Smith.
kind-hearted, energetic, unique, and giving. Just some of the many words used to describe 23-year-old Amy Lewis, a young woman with a passion for life whose own was cut short.
We know that Amy had a very large group of people that she knew and that had come to love her as well. And it's not surprising that a lot of people showed up.
Over 600 people showed up from Medicine Hat, Burdett, even Minneapolis. They gathered to share stories, photos, and songs. At points, there were more wet eyes in the house than dry ones, but in the spirit of Amy, there was also humor. One friend shared the story of a time the girls became bored after being hired to pull weeds in a nearby farmer's field.
Amy goes to the bathroom, she comes back and she's fully naked. And I'm like, Amy, what are you doing? People are going to see. And she was like, oh, well, I was thinking I would probably just get a better tan if I take my clothes off. And I just like, it'll probably be more fun. And I was like, you are so ridiculous. 5 minutes later, I took my clothes off too, and I was like, you know, you're right, this is awesome. And Amy's older sister, Irene, was just like so embarrassed for her. But Amy, that's just who Amy was.
Not only a good friend, but also a caring relative. In summer, Amy would visit her aunt and uncle for what they called cousin camp.
She was very much an energetic part of that, staying up late, laughing, just having a wonderful time.
In the midst of the memories was some hint of the tragedy associated with Amy's death. At one point, the pastor noted her life was taken by someone who had no right to it.
So many of these things that are happening have happened. We're completely out of our hands, and to a large degree they still are.
And while there may always be aspects out of their hands, Amy's loved ones say they were comforted to once again feel her presence.
I just kind of wanted to be like, it was like I was like remembering memories with Amy, and Amy just standing right there, and we were just laughing our heads off. So we did. We just like, I don't know. Yeah, it just kind of reminded me that Amy was there and she was listening.
Brianna Karsten-Smith, Chat News.
Lewis's family is asking that donations be made to Halo in her memory. The air ambulance service was one of many groups involved in her search efforts. The man accused of murdering Lewis will be back in court on September 13th. A 24-year-old Lethbridge man has been charged with 2 counts of robbery and possession of a dangerous weapon after 2 men were robbed of their bicycles. It happened in the downtown area last night around 9:30. Thomas Sanderson made his first court appearance this morning. Police have also charged 3 17-year-olds after officers say another 17-year-old was beaten up and his cell phone was taken. It happened in Riverstone Park. The victim was treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Police say it was a targeted attack and continue to investigate. The accused are scheduled to appear in youth court on September 5th. There are a few service changes you should know about for this long weekend. For one, City Hall is closed on Monday for Labor Day. The animal shelter will handle only emergency calls. Buses will not be running on Monday. They'll return to normal service on Tuesday. The Galt Museum will be open at 1 o'clock on Monday. The Helen Schuler Nature Center will be open all weekend and return for the full details of the closures, visit the city's website at lethbridge.ca. Starting Tuesday, Lethbridge Transit will move back to its regular schedule, which means a few changes to accommodate students and staff heading back to university and college. Routes 12 and 32 will now have 15-minute service during the afternoon and morning peak hours. Please check your ride guide for the updated schedule and full information. You can find more from a downloadable ride guide online at lethbridge.ca/transit. Another grisly discovery on the West Coast. It appears feet have washed up on shore again. Police in Victoria are trying to determine if 3 shoes containing remains are human.
It was a bone, some meat material of some sort. We can't confirm right now if it was human remains or not, so we're certainly looking into all of that. We have our forensic identification team, we have our detectives coming out.
A person walking near a beach discovered the child's shoe. Police and the coroner investigated and found 2 more similar shoes containing remnants. One was buried in the sand. There was a history of feet washing up on BC shores. There's been 12 since 2007, but there's also been hoaxes. Last September, 2 shoes were found in Oak Bay containing what looked like remains. It turned out to be raw meat. An autopsy has been conducted on a woman's torso found in the Niagara River. The discovery was made Wednesday. Police say the woman was white, middle-aged with a pierced navel and the victim of a homicide. They say the case was not connected with the death of Hua Guangliu. Parts of her body were found earlier this month around Toronto. Her torso is still missing. Engineers are examining a Montreal arena after part of its roof blown off. Strong winds caused damage to the Maurice Rocket Richard Arena. The piece that tore off was 30 by 20 meters wide. Only a few workers were inside at the time. No one was injured. The roof was being renovated. The rink is used by the National Short Track Speed Skating team. A large earthquake has struck off the eastern coast of the Philippines this morning. The 7.9 magnitude earthquake triggered tsunami warnings across a wide swath of Asia. The tsunami alert was issued for a number of areas, including the Philippines, Indonesia, Taiwan, Japan, and Guam. Residents living along the coastline of the eastern Samar Island were advised to move to higher ground. Tropical Depression Isaac is losing steam, but his efforts are continuing to wreak havoc on the Gulf Coast. In Louisiana, evacuations are still underway today. Tom Walters has more from Slidell, Louisiana.
In its own way, this is a nature tour.
There's a little bit of wildlife. My neighbor's ducks.
But Tony Citrone is taking us on a tour of nature's destruction, something he has seen before.
But it's been Katrina since the last time I seen it this bad.
The day after the flood, his house is still okay, but there are fears of more to come.
It's not very far from getting into my house if the water comes up as quick as it did yesterday.
Stephanie Daniels left last week. The day after the flood, she is back to check on her house, the one she rebuilt on stilts after it was destroyed by Katrina 7 years ago to the day.
And the fact that it is on the anniversary, it just brings back all the bad memories of coming back to nothing.
And the day after the flood, Harley Himber was just being rescued from her house.
Last night it was crazy. It was like something out of a movie. It was unreal.
Yeah, here we are on my front porch.
But no one rescued Tony. In fact, when he tried to drive out yesterday, police said the roads were too bad and would not let him leave.
So we got basically sent back to where we were coming from.
Into the flood?
Correct.
He's fine, but he can't say the same for his truck.
When I was turned back around to come back home, I parked it in the street, and as you can see, the street wasn't even high enough.
So this is how Tony finally escapes, paddling himself and a few simple belongings to higher ground the day after the flood. Some flash flood warnings remain in effect tonight, but the National Hurricane Center now says that it expects the floodwaters to start subsiding tomorrow.
Now, if there's a silver lining, the rain from Isaac is good for farmers across the Midwest. They've been dealing with drought for much of the summer. And as we go to breaks, let's take a look at today's closing numbers.